Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Hello and good afternoon. Welcome back to the latest episode of Musical Musings. We air this program every week at Wednesday at 1 p.m. and we broadcast it from Rajamangala University of Technology, Peranakan. This program will come to you in two parts. The first part, I will introduce a song to you along with the band or the performer that sings it. For this week, it will be a band. And in that first part of the program, we will discuss a little bit about the band, and we will also discuss the main themes of the song. In other words, what the song is about. Then we will go ahead and listen to the song. And after that, when we come back, that will be our second part. And in the second part of the program, we will analyze the lyrics. The lyrics are the words to the song. And we'll talk about any vocabulary or any sayings or slang that may be difficult to understand. And that will be our second part. After that, we'll have the news and the updates from the university as always.
Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Gary Gray. I'm your host for the Musical Musings program, and I'm an American English teacher here at Rajamangala University of Technology, Peranakan. I've been here for about 7 years, going into my 8th year now, and I do like to use music sometimes as a helpful teaching tool, and so naturally, that's why I'm bringing you this program about music. And as I mentioned in our introduction, every week, we will go over one song, and we will discuss the lyrics to that song. But before we get to the lyrics, I would like to tell you a little bit about the song itself and the band that performs the song. Today's selection is the song 25or6to4 by Chicago. Now, I'm not sure if we've done Chicago yet. I believe we have not done this band. I try to do new bands every week, but we have repeated a couple of bands. We've been doing this program for over a year now, weekly. So we've repeated a couple of bands or performers once or twice. I believe we have not done Chicago, which is surprising. It's one of my favorite bands. I usually do music I like, so that it's a song that I'm familiar with, so I can tell you more about it. So again, the name of the song is 25or6to4 by Chicago. Most people think that 25or6to4 is Chicago's #1 hit, but they've had a lot. And it's not my favorite song by them, although I will tell you it's right up there. #2, #3, something like that. I love Chicago, and I love this song. I think it is a great song, just not quite my favorite song. My favorite song by them is If You Leave Me Now. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the band Chicago. You could probably guess by the name that they are from Chicago in the USA. They didn't just pick that name randomly. That is actually where they're from. So this band was formed in 1967. In my notes here, I did not write down their initial name. I believe it was called The Big Thing, but they did not keep that name very long. Within a year, they had changed their name to Chicago Transit Authority, which is named after the mass transit, like the BTS, MRT, the mass transit system in Chicago, is named the Chicago Transit Authority. And so they named it after that. They named their band after that. That did not last that long either, although they did already start getting fairly popular pretty quickly. So some people, even today, still refer to them as Chicago Transit Authority or CTA, but they kept that name only for about a year. And by the next year, they were known simply as Chicago. And like I said, they became famous pretty quickly. This song we're going to talk about today was done in 1969. That's the first year they were known as Chicago. In 1967, like I said, that's when they formed. Then in 1968, they became the Chicago Transit Authority. And then by 1969, they were Chicago. And the song we're doing today came out in 1969. Okay, this band is still active. However, they really only have a couple of their original performers. When I say original performers, this is an interesting band as they have more instrumentation, more instruments than most of the bands we talk about. Like they have a lot of brass instruments. What does brass instrument mean? What does that mean? We're talking about instruments like a trumpet or a trombone, maybe even a saxophone. They have a lot of different instruments like that in their band. It's not just, even though their style is still mostly rock, there's definitely some combination of other genres in there. A lot, especially maybe jazz getting in there. There's a lot of a jazz feel in there as well. Even though it's still mostly rock, unlike most rock bands, which are basically singer, guitar, bass, drums, that's it. Some bands might feature a saxophonist in there too. That's kind of fun in a rock band. Like Bruce Springsteen, his band has a saxophonist in there. Jerry Rafferty, one of his best songs, Baker Street Blues, has a great sax solo in there. Sax, that's short for saxophone. But most rock bands do not have brass instruments, woodwind instruments. Woodwind would be like clarinet, flute, something like that. Most rock bands do not have that. Chicago does. And so a couple of their other, their kind of extra instrumental players are still with the band. But as far as their main members of the band, there's only really one left. So they had three main members. They had Terry Kath, Peter Cetera, and Robert Lamb. Robert Lamb is really the only one still there. Unfortunately, Terry Kath died in 1978. So he died fairly early. I mean, they'd been around for 10 years, so he was there for a while. But considering they're still around almost 50 years after he's died, yeah, he died pretty early. And Peter Cetera left in 1985. He was pursuing a solo career. And a lot of fans really think that the band went downhill after that. I sort of agree. I agree that it's not as good as it was in the 1970s. Terry Kath was really good. A lot of people think he's maybe one of the best guitarists ever. I'm not sure I'd go that far. I think some of his playing is a little bit on the slow side, which, as someone who plays guitar myself, I'm terrible at it. And the only reason I can manage to get through anything is because I play slowly. Believe me, playing slowly helps. It makes it easier to play. Kind of a lot like Eric Clapton. He's considered to be a great guitarist as well, but a lot of his music is pretty slow. I think he makes it a little easier on himself. But he's still a great guitarist. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people think he's one of the best ever. So when he passed away, unfortunately, it was hard to replace him. And then Peter Cetera, he was their number one lead singer. He did share the leads with Terry and with Robert Lamb. They all did some of the lead vocaling, but Peter was really the main lead singer, Peter Cetera. And so then he left in 85. So it really isn't the same. I talk a lot of times about how bands, they keep replacing people, and eventually you end up with none of the original singers or band members. And you kind of have to ask yourself, is that even the same band anymore? And I would say Chicago is kind of like that. I mean, I don't want to badmouth them. Their performances are still quite good. They do still have Robert Lamb there, so they do have some of the same vocals. He's the keyboardist. They still got the same keyboardist. As I said, they do have a couple of the same other instrumentalists there as well. So they do still have a few of the same performers. but mostly it's not the same group anymore. So a lot of people really don't think of Chicago as being kind of the same Chicago as it used to be. A lot of people even thought in the early 80s it wasn't the same. And that's when Peter Cetera was still there. I would honestly say that it still was quite good in the early 80s, even though maybe not as good. It maybe went down a step because Terry Kath was no longer there. But I would say it was still quite good. Anyway, I always recommend listeners to listen to more of their music. We're just listening to one song today. Chicago has a ton of great songs. In fact, there was a ranking by Billboard of their top 50 songs. Most bands, you can't even come up with 50 songs to rank, let alone their best 50 songs. So these guys have a lot of great songs. Okay, and as I said, 25 to 64 is thought by many to be their best song. So that's the one we're going to do today. And as I told you before, it was recorded in 1969. So this was one of their first songs. I shouldn't say one of their first songs. They had been around for 2 years before then, but it was one of their first songs as Chicago. And actually, they changed their name in 69 to Chicago. This song came out in 69. I'm actually not entirely sure. I didn't look at the actual months of the release date of the song and the date they changed their name. It's possible this actually came out when they were still Chicago Transit Authority, but it's right around that time. It's the same year. One of the things that, even though I said this isn't my favorite song, it's one of my favorite songs by them. One of the things that I think is just perfect about this song is you have these three main performers in their group. All three of them are featured so strongly in this song. In the performance itself, I'm not going to tell you there's a ton of keyboard and a lot of vocal by Robert Lamb. No. So when you see the video or listen to the song itself, Robert Lamb isn't really featured there. So why do I say that this is a perfect combination of all three? Robert Lamb wrote the song. As you'll see when we get into the lyrics aren't that long. They're not that complicated. But still, it's his song. He wrote it. So you got Robert Lamb writing the song. Peter Cetera did most of the vocals. They do have a lot of great harmonizing. That's another thing that makes Chicago really a great group. So you're going to get other voices in there. It's not just Peter Cetera singing the whole song, but he is the main lead singer for the song. So you got Robert Lamb writing the song, Peter Cetera as the lead singer, and then you've got this guitar solo in there that most people absolutely love. Again, it is a little bit slower, so I think sometimes some of these guitarists are overrated. But I don't really want to say Terry Kath is overrated. Like I said, he is extremely good. But some people act like this is the best guitar solo ever. I think that's going a little bit far. But it is really good. So you get this really great guitar solo featuring Terry Kath in there. So you've got all three members, key members. Again, there's lots of other members. You have lots of instrumentalists. There's also a drummer, of course. So there's a lot of other members here. But as far as their key members, all three of them featured in this song. So it's a really great song. One of the confusing things about the song, though, is just the name. Even the biggest diehard Chicago fans couldn't figure out what the name meant. 25or6to4. I never knew what it meant either. My only guess, and I was actually kind of close. I got close. I was pretty close. My only guess was that 6 to 4, when we say one number to another number, we're usually talking about a time. And when we say like 6 to 4 here, we usually mean 6 minutes before that hour. So 6 to 4 would be 3:54, 6 minutes before 4 o'clock. But then you have 25or. I was still confused. Nobody really knew. Some people thought it was maybe about sex or drugs or something, or maybe it was some secret code about a certain person. And nobody really knew what it was about. Well, anyone that thought it was about time, they were pretty much right. Yeah, so I didn't get it quite right, but I was close. He's saying, and Robert Lamb, by the way, finally explained this only about a little more than 10 years ago. So finally, we know what it's about. And when you learn what it's about, the lyrics become very simple, really. So we're not going to have to spend a whole lot of time on the lyrics, which is good because I'm talking a lot here in the first half, and the song is pretty long. So the lyrics will be fairly simple. There's a few things we'll need to talk about. Some sayings, some words that may be hard to understand. But the whole thing becomes really easy once you understand what this means. The confusing part here to me was the 25 or 6. As I said, the 6 to 4 sounds like it's a reference to time. It is. The 25 or 6, what Robert Lamb meant by that is 5 or 6. So in other words, it's 25 or 26. So it's 25 or 26 minutes before 4 o'clock. So that would be what? 3:34 or 3:35. It's basically the time he looked at his clock. He looked at his clock and it was 3:34 and probably just changed to 3:35 while he was looking at it. So he's looking at his clock and he's talking about 3:34 or 3:35 in the morning. So what he was talking about here is very simple. This is a song about the song. He's talking about writing a song in the middle of the night, trying to come up with the words. That's it. That's all this means. It's just a time. It's 25 or 26 minutes before 4 o'clock in the morning. 3:34 or 3:35 in the morning. Talking about writing a song. And as we read the lyrics in the second half, that will become pretty easy to understand. The lyrics are pretty simple. Okay, let's go ahead and get to the song. As always, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, we cannot embed the video, so please go ahead and click on the link in the upper right. And for everyone else who is listening on radio or streaming, you should have no trouble. So you should be able to listen just fine. Let's get to the song.
Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Welcome back, everyone. That was 25 or 6 to 4 by Chicago. And that is just a song about writing a song. As I said, the name of the song refers to the time. It is 25 or 26 minutes before 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's the middle of the night, and Robert Lamb is trying to write this song. Okay, so let's get to the lyrics here. Again, as I said in the first part, it's going to be pretty easy. We do have some sayings I want to talk about here just to make sure you understand them. For example, right away we start out with waiting for the break of day. Break. That's like to snap something in half. What does that mean? Break of day. It's a very simple saying we use when we talk about break of day. We're talking about the sun coming up. So he's waiting for sunrise. Searching for something to say. Okay, that line should be easy. He's not really searching for something to say. He's writing lyrics. He's searching for something to write. But same thing. We say that we use that phrase a lot of time. Just searching for something to say. But he's having trouble coming up with the lyrics. Flashing lights against the sky. That one I'm not really sure what he means by the flashing lights. It may be he may just be talking about thoughts. In other words, sometimes when you have this idea, boom, it's like a light bulb goes off. That's what we call it, a light bulb going off. So it might be talking about he's like getting these ideas, but can't really searching for something to say, but he's getting these ideas, just can't quite get the lyrics. Not really sure what he means by that line. I could be incorrect about that. But that's just about the only line here, I think, that is hard to understand. Everything else is very straightforward. So the next line, giving up, I close my eyes. Sitting cross-legged on the floor, 25 or 6 to 4. Okay, giving up, I close my eyes. That's pretty easy to understand. He's having trouble, like I said. He's searching for something to say. He's having trouble. So he gives up, take a break, closes his eyes, and he just describes how he's sitting, just sitting cross-legged on the floor. And then he tells you what time it is. 25 or 6 to 4. Pretty simple. Okay, and that's it for the whole first verse. Now, there's only 3 verses here, so pretty easy song. As I said, a lot of people were confused by this song because of the title. So what is it about? Now that you know what it's about, this is really easy. Okay, so the next verse starts out, staring blindly into space. Okay, obviously, if you're staring, you're probably not blind. What does that phrase mean? Staring blindly into space. You're not actually blind. I mean, well, some people are blind, but I mean, not in this song. So I don't want to say you're not blind. We may have people listening who are blind. I just mean in this song, he is not blind. What this phrase means, staring blindly into space, is you're not really seeing what you're looking at because you're thinking of something else. We do this a lot. Like when you're thinking of something, you maybe kind of look up. You're not really paying attention to what you're looking at. You're staring blindly into space. Blindly just means you're not seeing. You're not really seeing what you're looking at. Of course, you're seeing it. It's there. But you're not paying attention to it. You're not thinking about it. You don't care what your eyes are looking at. You're looking up to just think about something. Okay, staring blindly into space, getting up to splash my face. I don't know if this is a thing that is done worldwide or if it is cultural. So you may not know what that means. I'm not sure when he says to splash my face. I'm not sure if you do the same thing in Eastern culture. In Western culture, sometimes to help you wake up, you'll go into the bathroom, run some water, usually cold water, that's more helpful, and you splash it on your face. So he's just trying to wake up. He's trying to give himself some energy so he can come up with these lyrics to this song. Wanting just to stay awake. Okay, that's what I said. These lyrics get pretty easy now that you know what the song's about. So he's splashing his face because he's wanting just to stay awake. Wondering how much I can take. All right, so this is where it becomes so hard to understand if you don't understand what the name of this song means. Wondering how much I can take. Why is he having so much trouble staying awake? What's the problem? What's the song about? What's going on? Is it the drugs that he's taking? No. 25 or 6 to 4 means it's after 3:30 in the morning. He's still up from the previous night. He's tired. That's why he's wondering how much more he can take. He's sitting there trying to come up with the lyrics, How much more can he take? So then the next line, should I try to do some more? 25 or 6 to 4. So, okay, that line is pretty self-explanatory. Should I try to do some more? So he's asking himself, do I give up here or do I keep trying? 25 or 6 to 4. Okay, then that's it for the second verse. Now we have the last verse. Oh yeah, feeling like I ought to sleep. Okay, easy enough. Spinning room is sinking deep. Okay, that one's a little tricky. What does that mean? Spinning room is sinking deep. Sometimes when we get dizzy, we feel like the room is spinning around us. He's not really dizzy, but he's tired. And sometimes you get that similar feeling. It's not exactly the same. It's not like spinning, like you get dizzy, like you feel sick. But sometimes you do get that kind of feeling like you're floating around or something. And same thing with the sinking deep. just you just feel. So he's really exhausted. That's all that means. Spinning room is sinking deep. In other words, he's just wiped out. And then he just repeats what he said at the beginning. Searching for something to say, waiting for the break of day. 25 or 6 to 4. And that's it, folks. That is it. Those are the lyrics. Very simple. And it's a pretty long song because you get a lot of musical sections in there. You get that long guitar solo in there. I believe our video or audio, if you're not watching the video, I believe our video is more than 7 minutes long in here. So pretty long song. But the lyrics are easy. All right, so that's our song, 25 or 6 to 4. I hope you enjoy the song. Like I said, the lyrics are pretty easy. I could have not done this song because part of this program is about going through the lyrics. It's an English program. It's supposed to help you learn some English. But it's a really good song. A lot of people think it's Chicago's best song. And Chicago is a really important band in musical culture because of the way they combine genres. And they're probably one of the most popular American bands, especially of those that crossed over from the 70s into the 80s. From the 70s to the 80s, there was a big shift in music. Not a lot of bands managed to cross over. Some did, especially ones that came along in the late 70s that were more into that, but they were more like 1980s bands. For example, the band Kiss. They were around for much of the 1970s, but their music was kind of more heavy metal, and that was kind of more coming into its own as you got into the 80s more with bands like Black Sabbath, who also I believe formed in the 70s. I'd have to look up exactly when they formed. Iron Maiden. A lot of those groups were, but they peaked more in the 1980s. Some of them peaked pretty early in the 80s, but they peaked more in the 80s. And then you had other heavy metal bands coming around later in the 80s that really peaked in the 90s, and are still around today and really popular today. Bands like Metallica is still really popular. So that was more of even though some of those bands formed in the 70s, that was more of an 80s thing. The 70s was more into that disco era. So there was really this big shift from the 1970s to 1980s, and not a lot of bands made that crossover very well. The best ones to do it were probably the classic rock kind of bands, because that was a kind of a classic sound that sort of built up in the 60s even, but was popular through the 70s and continued through the 80s. Chicago isn't really any of that. They probably come closest to that. There was definitely some traditional classic rock feel to them, but they're not exactly that because of their combination of musical genres with jazz and soul and pop in there. So they're a really important band in American music culture. So anyway, as I always tell you, I recommend you listen to more of their music. Some of their other big hits are Saturday in the Park. Does anybody really know what time it is? Long song name. If You Leave Me Now, as I told you, that's my favorite song. You're the Inspiration, which is an interesting one. I told you most people did not like. Well, I shouldn't say they don't like. They don't like it as much. They don't like Chicago's later work as much. You're the Inspiration came out in the 1980s. It's a 1980s song, and it's still one of their most popular songs. So they still have some big hits. That's why I said that. In my opinion, I still think they were quite good in the 80s. Maybe not as good as the 70s, but still quite good. So You're the Inspiration. That's another big hit by them. And Baby, What a Big Surprise. I've just named, I think, 5 there. They have lots more. Lots more good songs. Those are 5 of my favorite songs by them, along with 25 or 6 to 4. So please check out more of their music. They have a lot of great music, and it's also very interesting because of their style, their mix of genres. All right. Thanks so much for joining us for today's Musical Musings program. Please stay with us, and also make sure you tune back in next week for another great song. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.
Musical